Thanks to everyone who's taken part in the service today. We have had a lot of moving parts. It's really fun. Lots of good things happening to help us think together. Happy birthday tomorrow. Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you, Kay. Well, here we are. It's Advent. Hard to believe, isn't it? We just finished Thanksgiving and we're jumping right in. This year, the theme at FUMC is we have gifts to open, and today we're going to open the gift of vision. Now, I want to tell you that I'm going to try to keep this on the micro level. I've been talking to some preacher friends of mine, and we're all saying it's difficult to come up with anything to talk about these days that doesn't sound like we're just making political commentary. But I'm not doing that today. As important as all of that might be to us, as important as the things of our community and the groups we're a part of and our state and national government, as important as that is, really, is the issues of our private, everyday lives that hold promise and threat for our well-being. And we need vision for everyday life. Our wonderful, our difficult, our strange, our ordinary daily lives make up the whole of our life together, and it's important to find vision for those times and those days. Now, a few weeks ago, I mentioned something to you that means a lot to me. It's a teaching from Jewish tradition, and it is about the ayin tovah, the good eye. And I think I reminded you then that Jewish wisdom urges us to look at the world with the good eye, looking for the best, hoping for the best, expecting the best of each other. But implied in that is that we ourselves will try to live into that vision so that we are what we wish others would be. Now, I get it. All such great ideas like that, are easily shot down. Okay, right. All great ideas, all good ideas hold within them the possibility of rebuttal and clarification, objection, outright rejection. So noted. And yet, it's pretty hard to get through any day without a clear vision, without good vision, without trying to find another way, without looking at each other and at our problems with some hope of a better way. So it's pretty important to talk about how we see things and what our vision is. Of course, not everything's pleasant. Not everything's easy. Not everything's efficient. Things get under our skin. Things offend us. And I'm still just talking about everyday, ordinary life. For instance, we've all just come off of the Thanksgiving holiday where we spent it with family and friends. Need I say more? We get under each other's skin sometimes. And in our everyday, ordinary, non-holiday lives, we interact with people all day, and they are people whose ways are not our ways. They are people whose choices sometimes move beyond the merely annoying to the absolutely aggravating, driving you insane kind of things. Almost everybody here is touched by estrangement from family or friends. Almost everybody is touched by broken relationships, by decisions that other people make that cause anxiety in the family or in the workplace. All of us know something about worrying about addictions or poor work habits. Sometimes we know about negative people even, don't we? We know about work schedules that don't leave us enough time to do everything that needs to be done. And then sometimes we are the ones who are wreaking all that havoc on everyone else. And then there's illness and the ever-present threat of death. So really, there's pockets of darkness for all of us all the time. If not in our own households, then right next door or among the people we know and love. So it's not surprising then that the Bible and other great pieces of literature, as well as film and art, often deal with the theme of darkness and light, of looking for vision, of struggling to find the way. I went to see a movie last week, and the best thing about the movie was a trailer that I saw, a trailer for an upcoming movie that actually sort of gave me a vision for how I would talk about this topic today. The movie starting next month will be starring Will Smith, and it's called Collateral Beauty. the title itself really got my attention. What I gathered from the trailer is that Will Smith has lost a child to some kind of tragedy. And part of his therapy is to write. But he's not writing to that child. In fact, he's not writing to any person. He's writing to death, to time, and to love. And in a convenient holiday twist, all of those, death, time, and love, become incarnate, and they appear to him. They seem to be trying to guide him to a vision that will help him get through this terrible tragedy of losing his child. Collateral beauty, I assume, is what he's going to find. Now, I don't know anything else about the movie, but I really am intrigued by that idea of collateral beauty. And I think that it is collateral beauty, a vision for it, that can get us through our difficult times. Now, collateral beauty means a lot more to us against the backdrop of collateral damage, which we are painfully aware of. Collateral damage is that unintended consequence of any given thing, whether good or bad. It's the bad thing that happens when something else has already happened. Like, for instance, when you take medicine that cures one thing and harms some other part of your body. You know this if you know any people going through cancer treatment. There's also collateral damage when two people finally get their courage to end the misery of a marriage, but the children have to figure out how to adjust. There's collateral damage when we live long lives. We live to a ripe old age, but our friends are passing away before us, and there's loneliness. I talk to a lot of elderly people about that. It's good to live long, but the collateral damage is the loneliness and the ever-present reality that our time will come to. Collateral damage is the soul wound that's played out when the bullied and rejected child finally makes it to adulthood and escapes the bullying, escapes the rejection. But now she's so hungry for acceptance and so enamored by freedom that her boundaries are shaky, and she doesn't know the limits of sex and alcohol and drugs. Collateral damage. It's also the undercurrent of anger that courses through someone's veins when they've been forced to be something they are not by convention, by tradition, by lack of education, by lack of thinking some other way. So, we know way too much about collateral damage. These things make our days seem dark. How will we survive this? How do people survive the collateral damage of life? Maybe it is that we look for and we help each other find collateral beauty. In philosophical terms, observing beauty is valuable just for the sake of it. Appreciating something beautiful is its own value. But also, philosophers and ordinary people like us know that beauty has this amazing power to move us to moral action. Collateral beauty survives no matter what. It's like that dandelion growing up in the sidewalk. No matter what, it will bloom. It survives against all odds. It survives against dangers, toils, and snares. It's all around us. It's always with us. And so some people speak of God as beauty. The Bible uses images to suggest or even insist that beauty is everywhere, and that it is there in the face of darkness. The people who wrote the Old Testament lived in the ancient Middle East, and then and now. It is a land of vast deserts. So when they wanted to talk about beauty in the middle of despair or darkness, they talked about flowers that bloom in the desert. They talked about cool pools of water in the burning sand. Jesus talked about the lilies of the field who were dressed so majestically, more in finer clothing than any king you could name. And interestingly enough, he spoke about that while he was in the middle of talking about our need not to worry quite so much about the things we need, food and clothing. He said, consider the lilies, how they grow. So to me, the beauty we see in nature acts like an attentive mother lifting up her child when that child has fallen and letting that child know you're going to be okay. That's how beauty in nature works. But you know, beauty's not just found in flowers and in mountains and in clear coastal waters. The passage that we read from Psalm that Renee read for us from Psalm 119, that chapter is a very long chapter, and it's written by someone who's almost singing a love story of devotion to the ways of God. I don't know if you noticed it or not, but when she read it, the verse says, I love walking in the ways of God. In fact, it's like running on a freeway. Now, I live in Fort Worth, and Interstate 35 or 635 over there in Dallas does not exactly conjure up images of joyful riding with the windows down, but the image is still useful because it means to convey that the ways of God give us ease of passage in an otherwise difficult path. It shows a vision of how to walk amid the potholes and amid the branches and the debris that's everywhere in our path. The ways of God then are beautiful. They're beautiful to us because they present us with a highly functional way of living. And these virtues that are caught up in the notion of the ways of God, the laws of God, they give us then this smooth road to run on, and we are moved by them. Because whenever any one of us observes someone living out the ways of God, tenderness, kindness, compassion, I mean, think about all of those commercials that just pull at your heartstring. Every one of those is about humans taking care of each other. These are the ways of God, and they are beautiful to us. They move us. So collateral beauty is tenacious. It will pop up anywhere in unexpected places. About 10 years ago, I was living in Dallas working with a church there, and it was my day to visit the hospitals, and one of the men in our church was in the rehab hospital, so I went to see him. Now, this man was not young, and so his rehab was going to be long, and it was going to be hard. So I went to the hospital room, and he wasn't there. The nurse said, well, he's out on the rehab floor, but you can go and check on him. Maybe he's waiting his turn. Maybe he'll be able to talk to you. So I went to that room, and I remember it had a wide opening so that as I approached the opening itself, I could see just this expanse of a room. I think it was about this big. And I could see patients here and here and here and all around the room, some in wheelchairs, some in regular chairs, some on tables. And all around me, therapists, physical therapists, were with those patients, some in front of them, some beside them, some behind them, moving arms and limbs, trying to teach brains and muscles how to work again. And I felt like I was in a choreograph of caring. It was amazing to me, not because I'd never seen that before, but I thought about those people, and I watched them moving arms and limbs, and I paid attention to those patients, and I knew that some of those patients could never even speak back to their therapist. I knew that some of those patients would never find their strength again to move their arms and legs on their own. Still, they worked. It was like this beautiful choreography of caring. It's not that I hadn't seen that kind of thing before. It was just that at that moment, the collateral beauty of these angels in scrubs appeared to me. And I saw it. And it was a gift. It's everywhere. A few nights ago in my own kitchen, 2 young people stood at the sink, bent over, working on their part of a meal that we would all share together. Both of them had, in past years, suffered difficult divorces. But now they stood together, having found love again with each other. As I observed them with their backs to me, I kind of froze that moment in time, and I thought about collateral beauty. I thought about beauty after ashes, about success after failure, and love after loss. I could tell you a lot more stories like this, and you could tell me a lot more about the inextinguishable beauty that is not just in this physical world, but in people and the things that people do. People living out the ways of God. It's really important for us to keep our eyes open to this, because this is how we will survive darkness. It will be beauty that appears to us and leads us through. One more story. Many of you know that I lead grief groups here at the church, and one of the things I ask the group members to do after the first week is, when you return, I say, please sit in a different chair. And this is because when grief comes to us, we find ourselves in a new arrangement of life. The loved one is gone, and now we're in this new place. And to mirror that experience, we sit in a new chair, and we take about 2 minutes in each session, and we just look around the room. We look at everything, the walls, the ceilings, the floor, the fabric on each other's clothing, and I don't tell them what to look for. I just tell them to look. This is an exercise in looking for what else. Yes, we give grief its due. We pay attention to it. We don't bury it. We don't pretend it didn't happen. We don't stuff our pain or our tears. But we also look for what else. And you know what? That's really everybody's task. That's our job. As people who often find ourselves living in darkness, we have to face our troubles in our relationships. We have to face our trouble at work, our trouble with money. We have to face illness. But we also have to find the vision for what else. Because what else? The beauty of what else keeps us from being stuck in pain. It keeps us from feeling like there's only one way when there might be another. It keeps us from failing to find out what is the other way. But you know, it's not all just about looking and observing beauty. It's about stepping into it. We shine a flashlight on a path so we can walk, right? And so seeing beauty gives us vision so that we can move forward. Hey, who knows? We might have a vision of forgiving an offense. We might see the vision for mending our own ways. We might see a vision for actually seeing the amazing people sitting right next to us as more than just that person who annoys me, as more than that person who is so different from me. Beauty is a gift. The question is, what do you see?